Hello there, thank God it's Friday. Welcome to today's edition of Business Nigeria. Here are the top stories we're tracking for you at this time. Naira gained 0.22% at investors and exporters window. Ondo State Government to partner federal agencies to boost IGR. As stocks collapse, dollar firms as Powell speech looms. On our interview segment today, yes, we'll start with the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. Yes, that's the new name. So we're going to set an agenda for the ministers here and what we expect from them. And on the flip side of the show, we'll stay with the economy and the new administration steering the wheel. We'll discuss the Minister of Finance, Trade and Industry. That will be the focus on the other half of the show. Also, monetary policies that will move the country forward will be where we'll beam our searchlight the other side of the show. Let's bring you up to some news making headlines. The Naira appreciated against the dollar on Thursday as it exchanged 771 Naira 69 kobo at the investors and exporters window. The local currency gained 0.22% compared to the 773 Naira 42 kobo exchange for the dollar on Wednesday. The spot exchange rate of 799 Naira 90 kobo to the dollar was the highest rate recorded within the day's trading before it settled for 771 Naira 69 kobo. The Naira sold for as low as 700 Naira to the dollar within the day's trading. A total of $121.6 million was traded at the investors and exporters window on Thursday. Meanwhile, the Ondo State Government says it would form collaboration with some federal government revenue-generating agencies as part of its efforts to boost its internally generated revenue. The State Commissioner for Finance, Mr. Wale Akinterinwa, had earlier revealed that the states improved its IGR from 6 billion naira in the past administration to over 36 billion naira annually. Chairman of the State Internal Revenue Service says, while speaking at the annual lecture in Akure, confirmed that the state government had collaborated with tax stakeholders, both at the state and federal levels, on how to boost the state's IGR. Represented by the SSA to the governor on revenue, he describes taxation as a working tool that has brought infrastructural development to the state. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu declared a state of emergency on food security, recognizing urgent need to address the mounting challenges faced by Nigerians. The critical step aims to safeguard the availability, accessibility, and affordability of food for all Nigerians. With a comprehensive plan in place, Senator Abubakar Kyari at the helm of affairs of the ministry, the presidency has urged Nigerians to rally together to embark on a transformative journey to revolutionize the country's food bank. Today with me on the show, live, he's an expert, also an agribusiness coach, Africanfarmer Mogaji. He's a friend of the house. Let's talk more about this. It's good to see you.
Same here.
First, let's start with that change of name. I think I'm interested in that. We now have a Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. So it's like we are taking this heads on. How does that come to you?
Well, it helps to let everybody know that the seriousness, things have changed. It's not business as usual because food security is encompassing, before it was rural development, just development, but food security has to do with everything. From the people, project, programs, nation, and even security now beyond just food security, as in security.
Security
itself is part of agriculture. So it's a robust conversation now, which, it's a welcome development.
I like to look at where we are. Some people will say, what really are the issues while most of the interventions instituted before now, why we've not had this impact is because the right stakeholders have not been involved. It's good that we let the minister know what the issues are at the moment. So if you're going to talk about this, do you agree to that sentiment? And if it is true, what should be done right?
So primarily, over the years, we've had programs that was not bottom up. It was some people who will sit down and think this is what the sector needs. People who have not gone through the experience of it. We would have salary earners who are consultants come and design program for people who are full-time. So at the end of the day, there's always that missing link of reality. The rubber never meets the road. So that's been a major issue. And so at the end of the day, on paper, it will be a beautiful program. But in terms of implementation, it will be deficient. And most times you don't have the people, as in government and the parastatals, come back to say, we made a mistake early. They don't evaluate, they just run it all through. So at the end of the day, you don't find private sector, even the farmers, they talk about the rural farmer, rural farmer, rural farmer. Most of the interventions, the rural farmers don't want it. It's not what they want. So at the end of the day, there's no buy-in from the farmers. It's just business as usual. And also the design of this program is same, just rejigged. So it's all, let's plant cassava. We focus on 3 things or 4 crops. Meanwhile, cocoa comes out every year. Oil palm comes out every year. We eat goat every year. We eat chicken every year. So we can't afford to pick 3, 4. We must have an holistic approach. We must have the minister focus on the parastatals under him. If we begin to hear that, it's all about tomato, it's all about pepper, then we know the minister is failing. Because it has to. So when the parastatals under the minister is, effectively and efficiently carrying out their functions, like quarantine is doing a great job now. In fact, you would hardly find you think quarantine is a private sector organization now, the way they are operating. So we need the parastatals. The main job of the minister is to ensure that these parastatals work, and the private sector.
You actually hit it right, because I was going that route, that sometimes the minister could come with that mindset of really ready to work. But some people will just want to force straight, like what the Minister of Work said. I like it, that my file should not spend 2 hours on your table. All of these issues are what we've faced for some time, The minister could want to do something. So how do you see him letting all of this parastatal understand what time of day it is? That yes, we need to get working at this time.
Now, the Minister of Agriculture may be handicapped. He is not an agri expert. But when you check his profile, he's an administrator. So as an administrator, his special advisors, the people that sit on the seats of special advisors will determine how it will work. Because the ministry is the ministry. There are processes they must go through. So if the special advisors are not just advising, they also have targets to work with those people, then they get results. If not, you will find this is how we do it. And unfortunately, the minister cannot go everywhere. If the minister is an agri expert, he can jump into things. But it's what the ministry brings to him that he would approve or appraise. And so there's going to be a lot of time wasting in that, except he has, like I said earlier on the program on this platform, he needs about 11 special advisors, and the government is not paying for them. If he has 11 special advisors, we can grow everything at the same time.
At this time where we are saying we should cut cost of governance.
No, so the special advisors is not paid by federal government.
Yeah, I get your point.
They are paid by developmental agencies.
Wow.
Check from time immemorial. So you have an agency wants to do something on cassava, and they all subsidize or pay the special advisors. They put it in their budget. So it's not federal government that is paying. So we should harness these opportunities and spread it. Special advisor in charge of marketing. You would market cocoa. You would marketing cocoa in terms of products and produce, which is the seeds and co. And don't forget, you market it within Nigeria, market it outside Nigeria. So that's a lot of work to take about 10, 15 crops and livestock together. Then we need value addition. Somebody whose focus is just processing. You're just processing. And you're processing cassava, tomato, cashew, chicken, goat. So we must have that. We must have youth and gender. We must have a special advisor on training and development. We must have a special advisor on irrigation. We must have, we need about 10 of those special advisors. Once they are doing experts, then the minister can administer. Don't forget, now it's a new government.
Yes.
In agribusiness in Nigeria, the agri sector, when a new government comes, it's a lot of politicking. He has to pay attention to each region. They are pulling him. So about 40 to 50% of his time will be managing the politics. So if with the special advisors, they can do the job. Yes, we have a minister of state, but guess what? There's a lot of work. Then the minister needs to pay attention to what's happening outside Nigeria than in Nigeria. Why? The ambassadors are crucial to Nigeria's food security. So if we have ambassadors with timelines and targets and deadlines to say, every quarter you must bring an investor from the country in which you are the ambassador to. That way the minister can go and do all those meetings, high-profile meetings, and let the people do the job. We need more money to flow in. We need expertise to flow in. We need collaborations to flow in. Things are really bad, so the minister needs to be out of the country for a lot of travels. So the special advisors do the job and work with the Minister of State.
That's a lot of work there. You've touched on something very important now, partnerships.
Yes.
And of course, with international agencies. We just hear billions of naira being approved for agricultural development. We hear this amount is approved for fertilizer supply. We hear this is for seedlings. And even recently, a lot of grains were pushed out and all of that. Please, where are these grains? Where are they going to? I'd like to ask that too, before we now talk about how important these partnerships are.
You see, grains is going to be a big challenge for Nigeria. As we speak now, you'll find 300 and above for a ton of maize. So the livestock sector is crippled. The multinationals using grains, also they are having challenges. So grains is very, very crucial. The malt drinks we take, they are all from grains. And the waste from that is what you call spent grains that they give to animals. So if we don't go headlong for our sorghum, our millet, the things we have not paid attention to that we have comparative advantage, if we don't go after that, we're going to fully cripple our protein intake, and which will affect most of the children, especially under 5. So, we need to pay attention to our grains. And guess what? We don't have enough in the country. And unfortunately, the global community, everybody is also protecting the grains they have because of Russia-Ukraine crisis. And what we're not paying attention to also is that the Niger crisis, they buy a lot of grains from Nigeria through the borders. So if care is not taken, let's say the coup plotters decide to, agree to allow civilians to take office, there's going to be a rush for Nigerian grains, further depleting what we have. That is not enough. So the grain business is a dicey thing that we need to pay attention to.
Let's practically look at some of the schemes that we've had before now. I know the Anchor Borrower scheme is one of it. We've had other supports to come in. And at the time, I knew the CBN was out to say the refunds or the returns on all of these loans seems not to be commensurate to what's being given out. So I'm looking at it. A new minister is in. How are we going to institute new policies? Are we going to try to balance those accounts? Or where do we really stand with regards to initiatives like this one? Or we're just going to, the money will just go like that? Is it going to be the money for the boys?
So you said we should be practical.
Yes, about it.
I'm seated here.
Yes.
I also have loans, not to banks. About 95%, if not more, of the agri space today, they are all, policies have crippled them. So, and it's a function of, in Nigeria, we call it man, no man. Man, no man in the sense that, they bring out a policy, you can't bring in corn. And it cripples everything. Increases the price of maize from 45,000 per ton to 145 in 3 days, and it stays for 6 months. After that, 45 days later, you say, a select 4 can bring in the grain. And the select 4 will now hold everybody at the jugular.
Yeah.
When Xenon Oil was the only one allowed to bring in diesel into the country, so that crippled business. So there was no diesel. 2009, we lost 250 acres of corn during dry season for irrigation, because we had 3 million running around the country with cash in his saying, and we could not get diesel. After that policy, when we were able to get diesel, the farm was bad. Then Ondo State Government now came up with another policy that you cannot buy more than 50 bags of fertilizer, at a go. So we had to apply. By the time it's your turn for them to visit your farm, to write a report, the maize we planted had grown, and we're doing commercial. So policy. State policy does not align with federal. Even the most of what we've had also is that the ministries and the parastatals don't align with the presidency. Some of the river basins will be increasing their land charges when the president is saying we want food to be available. Land is fixed for government. So all these challenges, so you take a loan, it's easier if you take a financial institution's loan. If you take loans from private sector, you are done for it. So all this changing of policy today this, tomorrow that, it is really affecting. We have crippled the livestock business in the country. We have also crippled the crop sector because of policy. One administration under Obasanjo said we should not import anything cassava. The next administration under Yar'Adua lifted the ban and they were bringing cassava products.
Was that where we had cassava bread? We're talking about
cassava bread.
That was Jonathan.
Jonathan.
Yes.
Yeah, after Jonathan left, we all have all these policies. They're just retweaking these things. It's the same content. And they want to always bring fresh hands to run the project instead of rejig what is happening. So many players are having issues. When this minister comes, you see, we focus on rural farmer. How about people like you and I in the private sector who have facilities, who have infrastructures, who have cleared the lands, who have dams, who have massive poultry, but the price of maize due to policy has crippled it. Those people they can produce, you can target, you can monitor, they won't run. But the rural farmers, they side sell. So we need to also understand that the private sector today is still part of government. And their policy has crippled almost all the investments. Name an industrialist in this country, a very big and rich person that you would say. They have agri projects all moribund. Banker, major people who own banks, people who own insurance companies. So if it's affecting everybody across board, so we're all not smiling. So many of us have to sell things, and after you have sold, we now have to pray.
Or you can buy back.
As against, using strategy. Yeah. Strategy is not working because policy is not stable. And so emotionally, you need to be balanced to be able to do things.
Investors will not look at you if you don't have stable policies in your country.
Investors won't look at you. Then, unfortunately, also, the kind of people so Anchor Borrell was domiciled with the CBN.
Yes.
CBN did not have the capacity in terms of human capacity. It's just a department, development finance. How many are there in every state? And you want 10,000, 15,000. So bottom line is, CBN, the Anchor Borrell sidelined the ministry. And the ministry are the ones with the grassroots knowledge. So right now, we need just supervision. We need CBN to monitor and evaluate, not get involved. And let's call a spade a spade. The CBN also probably avoided the ministry because they will create loopholes. So, but they need to work outside the system now and work directly with farms that you can track, you can monitor, you can locate, and also fund them. The 500,000 acres that government is talking about, where will they find it? Those are in the lands of someone with 100 acres, 200 acres, 300 acres, all across the country. Moribund are not doing anything currently. So if they put that money in, that's working capital. They don't need to clear any trees. There are fish farms I can show you in Ekiti, spanning 14, 15 acres, lying fallow. So we need a turnaround approach. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is an excellent turnaround manager. So his skills is what we need now. Turnaround in the agri sector, not business as usual.
Let's wrap up on this very important note. Let's talk storage and value addition. We've gone this route before, but I think it's also something that government needs to look at very seriously at this time. We shouldn't be pushing cocoa out and coming back with chocolates. We shouldn't be moving in even petroleum products and bringing in crude oil and bringing in refined petroleum products. So in the agricultural value chain, what are you thinking around storage and value addition? Quick one for the minister.
The minister needs to pay attention to one thing. We've not explored it. Leveraging our religious organizations. They all have funding they keep for long term. There's Islamic funding. We have the churches that have a lot of funding for long-term projects. They are the ones that can fund processing. So we need to explore bringing them in as collaborators. Talk to the big churches for them to fund storages. They have parishes, They have regional systems. They are in every local government. So encourage the churches and the people with Islamic funding to do this developmental project, and federal government and state government don't need to disturb their heads so much. Everything we need is in the country. If we are looking outside to raise funding, we will not feed the country. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has something that is working for him. There's a lot of darkness. So if you light a candle in darkness, it would light up the house. Right. Everything he needs in the country, he just needs the right people that know what to do, especially with the river basin. The river basin is something they talk about, but they cannot implement with it right now. So they need the right people with the right information to get things done, very fast.
Interesting chart there, Mr. Africanfarmer Mogaji. They have been speaking to him. He's an expert and an agribusiness coach, educating us and letting us know where the minister should look at moving on, talking about food security in our country. I must thank you so much for your time on the program. Thank you for coming in live. We appreciate that, and have a great weekend.
Thank you for having me.
All right, then. Now, the Federal Ministry of Finance is government's body that manages the finances of the federal government of Nigeria, including managing, controlling, and monitoring federal revenues and expenditures. The parastatal collects and disburses government revenue, formulates policies on taxation, tariff, fiscal management, as well as prepares and manages the annual budget. Well, while the Federal Ministry of Trade and Investments helps diversify resource base of the economy by promoting trade and investment with emphasis on increased production and export of non-oil and gas products. Well, I introduced him earlier, and he's live in the studio. He is the Director General of Nigeria's Employers Consultative Association. He's live here, Mr. Wale Akinterinwa. Good to have you in the studio. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us.
Yes. I'd like us to start. I know, we've had a lot of issues before the ministers came in. Now they are in. So first, I want to say, Mr. Wale Akinterinwa, a lot has been said about him, but it seems like there's a lot of work for him. So what are you thinking? What is running through your mind? Then we'll pick it up from there.
Well, he has a legacy, trailing him. He has some antecedents.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is known to most stakeholders, and while he was special advisor also, there was a bit of engagement, and there was a pointer that he would likely play that role, but the president expanded the scope to coordinating minister of the economy, which is also a huge one.
Very big.
Bringing us back to the Wale era, So for us, we think he has the potential to succeed, barring all issues that might come up. And once they are able to marshal all the ministries, all the agencies, all working directly to achieve the same goal, the renewed hope, as they call it, of Mr. President, then the potential to succeed is quite high, very, very high indeed.
There's always this argument that the minister could, I asked Mr. Africanfarmer earlier too, that the minister could come in and say, let's get working, let's get to work. But some people might just be somewhere and they just want to frustrate that effort. How do you see him bringing people to think along the same line? And I don't know, that civil service, people believe that you always want to delay things and not let things just work the way we work in the private sector. How can we change this mindset?
It depends on the leadership first. Once you have your deliverables set, and then you distill the way we do it in the private sector. You have your deliverables, then you break those deliverables into KPIs.
Yes.
You allocate each staff, each level, having their deliverables, and you monitor how each staff's outcome is an input to somebody else's work. Once you create that structure that is based on performance, then it becomes difficult for somebody to hide. It becomes difficult for somebody to frustrate the system as a whole. And once you identify the moles in your system, those you think are there to frustrate the achievement of that goal, then you try as much as possible to bring them in. And if if they've chosen a path of destroying the work that you want to do, then you find a way to get them out of the system.
Nigeria economy is indeed challenged.
Absolutely.
We know that we can go on and on. We have issues with our currency. We have issues with inflation. Just yesterday, NBS released figures talking about unemployment rates and all of that.
Yep.
So where do you think we're going to start from sorting all of this out? Where do you see it starting from?
I think what we've done and what the president has done basically, and if you recollect, he said, if you find yourself in a hole, the first thing you stop doing is to stop digging. And then what we've done now is to stop digging. And because of the depth of the hole you find yourself, the process of coming up might take a bit of time, a bit of stress. Might not be as quick as you are digging. So we think the policies that have been put in place, the removal of first subsidy was the first major fundamental policy that was implemented. Yes. Successive governments in the last 2-3 regimes have not been able to do that
at all.
So we're able to do that, saying, look, there is something that is changing. We are determined to do things differently. Yeah, the consequences of the first subsidy, we're all facing it now, and we hope the government will be more proactive in dealing with those issues, and not only just coming up with those policies, also thinking concurrently with, look, if we do this, these are the consequences, then what are the mitigating strategies, or what are the mitigating steps that we'll put in place to ameliorate the effect of those policies. But fundamentally, for the finance business, we should play a major role in this whole narration, in the context of the fiscal and monetary policy, managing the forex.
I pray there's a synergy this time around.
We hope so. Also because of this, the role of Mr. Edu now being the coordinating minister of the
that's true. That's true. I think that should be better.
Intergovernmental synergy and interagency synergy will be one of the critical things that will either determine how successful we be, or how bad the system will go under its watch. What we saw in the last administration was a lot of ministries, a lot of departments and agencies working at cross purposes. Even the fiscal and monetary policy heads were also contending with each other. Not only contending in the inner room, in the fake chambers, they're also contending with themselves in public. Which doesn't give confidence to investors.
Of course.
An investor that wants to bring his dollar to this environment to invest, and you can see the monetary and fiscal policy authorities publicly engaging at cross purposes. Then it gives you the impression that, look, this environment is not an environment in which I should do business. So once they can handle that, they can deal with the intergovernmental alliance amongst themselves, and also they deal seriously with the issue of fiscal discipline. That's another major issue that he has to deal with, and we believe with the support of the president, he will be able to achieve that. First, that does be a good step. There are many issues to deal with, but the strategy which we have canvassed is look at all the issues. Frontally face 1, 2, 3 issues that has the potential to drag every other issue towards the trajectory of growth. You can't deal with everything. You'll be overwhelmed. A mortal, with the kind of problem we have, a mortal will be overwhelmed. Even those of us that are not in government, that are operating at the level of the private sector, sometimes you look at those issues and you probably will need an energy drink to
continue.
So now imagine the quantum of the problem of this country. You just pick 3, 4 problems that has the potential to drag every other issue along with itself in the trajectory of growth. Then you will have affected the most number of issues that are facing not only organized businesses, they are affecting labor, and then affecting all households as a whole.
When you talk labor there, I remember minimum wage. But let's talk about we're at the point of palliatives now. Yeah. Government's giving out handouts and a little bit of grains and all of that. I know many people are not in support of giving handouts, but it is what it is. What is your reaction to that and how states are going about it? We've seen some distribution so far. What will I say? Is it getting to where it should get to? Data issues here now.
Well, it comes back to the issue we've always advocated. We hope seriously that it's not turned to political patronage again. It's not turned to giving those that voted for us. The palliatives, the 5 billion naira is basically meant for Nigerians. And sometimes we think that 8,000 is too small. But until you meet a family that have not seen 5,000 in a month, they are eaten from hand to mouth. You know, part of the report by the NBS said about 133 million Nigerians, they are multidimensionally
Poverty.
Now, if you give someone that is multidimensionally poor 8,000, you know, it makes a bit of difference. It is not sufficient.
Yeah.
It is not enough.
Yeah.
It might not make a long-term difference, but it meets a need. Now, the 8,000, you know, and I'm talking like a businessman now, the 8,000 will not be eaten on itself. The individual will probably buy food, will probably buy sugar, will probably buy milk, will probably buy something to eat. Now, it's feeding the economic process because it's feeding the consumption process, which goes back to businesses. Then businesses remain a bit sustainable because of the quantum. You know, the stock level reduces because somebody is off-taking the stock that you have. Now, because the business can also sell its products, it's in the position to also remain sustainable. It's in the position to keep employees at work. And because employees are at work, they are able to pay school fees. They are able to pay landlords. Because the landlord is receiving rent, is also able to patronize the woman selling food. So it creates a circle. So the more the palliatives in the quantum of cash, the more it fuels the production process, the economic process. You might not see it in the short run, but on the long run, it trickles down, it has its consequential effect. Suffice to say once again that the 8,000 really, within the context of the cost of goods and services now, is not really sufficient. We wish government can do more, and we hope that what is being shared now, in the context of Naira, in the context of grains, we actually get to those that actually needs it, not you.
Let's talk here now about the Ministry of Trade and Investment. That's also a very important ministry because we need to attract investment, particularly at this time. We have FX issues, and businesses should be able to repatriate their monies because that's the only way they can also have confidence in doing business here.
Absolutely.
So I think Dr. Doris Uzoka-Anite has a lot on our table to deal with our trade policies and all of that. But I like something she said, that we need to change Project Nigeria's image in a very right way, you know, rebrand our products and all of that.
Absolutely.
I don't know how that comes to you.
Well, it is. You know, one thing that is working, that we work for her, because she has a lot of stakeholders that are interested in driving this conversation about trade, about investment, about promotion of made-in-Nigerian goods. You know, sometimes in July 10 and 11, we organized the second employer summit, and the theme of that summit was promotion of trade and non-oil export, because we realized that really, for you to change the narratives of this country, beyond the NNPC getting 3 billion loan, beyond ramping up oil revenue, I think what we change our narrative is productivity.
I agree.
Produce locally. Empower the manufacturing sector. Empower the service sector. There is no reason why public schools should not wear a made-in-Nigerian uniform. You know, there's no reason why the ministries and agencies of government, if they can't wear it 5 times a day, there's no reason why we can't say, look, for 3 times a week, everybody must wear a Nigerian print. You will feed the textile industry. Yes. So we must create a system, or she has to create a system, and I said she has the goodwill of many stakeholders, including us, NECA, create a system where she can drive the patronage of made-in-Nigerian goods from the top. Not that government, they are all wearing suits and wearing ties, and you are insisting that Nigerians should patronize made-in-Nigerian goods. It won't really work. And she also has to focus on the issue of ease of doing business. It's very important. Ease of doing business, then you have the potential to actually attract investment into this country. So those are fundamental things that she has to do, and we think she has started on a very good note. Not forgetting the issue of non-oil exports. You know, NEPC, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, is doing a very beautiful job. We are partnering with Nigeria Export Promotion Council.
Because I'm thinking of how we can ramp up that. We need to ramp up that. Sorry, I had to just butt in. We saw their figures recently, NAPC, 6 months, and they're doing about over $2 billion. I think that's what I saw. And they are looking at the fact that they should, hit higher than what they did last year. How can we ramp this up, particularly AFCFTA? I am getting worried. Are we going to get the benefits of this big market? Yeah, honestly, the number of people around the continent and the GDP of that market, Nigeria cannot be left out. A country of more than 200 million people.
We believe strongly that a major interest for most African countries signing into the AFCFTA is probably the Nigerian market.
Honestly.
We have the market, we have the people, we have the intelligence, and to be unfortunate if we don't leverage on this market we have. Now, NEPC is doing a lot, and we are partnering with NEPC. Now, those institutions that you have identified, I mentioned earlier that just identify agencies, identify policies that will help you to drag a major quantum of your problems out of the doldrums, and they drag all others along with it. Now, all those agencies have critical role to play, and they need to be empowered more, within the context of communication of what they are doing, within the context of scaling what they are doing. Those are the things we need. Once we can do that, then we also deal with the issue of standardization. Standardizing our product.
Packaging,
which
quality.
you mentioned.
Yeah.
That was a conversation we had a few months ago, and we went to Switzerland, to Geneva, during the ILO conference.
Yeah.
And you see Nigerian products. You see Guinness, and then you see Coca-Cola. They are Nigerian products. And they were not exported from Nigeria, but they are Nigerian products. So they took those products to some other African countries, and those products were imported. And many of those products are like that. We need to create a culture where we can assist NEPC, assist others to standardize our products, so that we can maximize the issue of non-oil export. Oil is giving us, oil is already becoming, some say it's becoming a cost. Because now, global oil market, once the oil prices go up, because we are not refining locally, then it affects so many other things for us. Rather than benefiting from increased cost of oil, cost of crude oil, is turning around to become a problem for us. So it's time that, and we believe strongly those will be part of the Honorable Minister's key points of address. How do we ramp up non-oil export? How do we facilitate and ensure ease of doing business? We're happy that Mr. Edwin is the coordinating minister, because all of them, the Ministry of Agric, with your last speaker, the Ministry of Trade and Investment, the Ministry of Labor, the Ministry of Environment, everybody have to understand the shared goal and the shared objective of the government. If not, you realize, as the Ministry of Trade and Investment is trying to create an environment that is conducive for business, you find the legislature creating bottlenecks for organized businesses. You find some other ministry also coming up with policies that will either stifle or negate the policy of growth that we were talking about. So the synergy, creating a synergy between ministries, between departments and agencies, should also be top on their list.
Very interesting conversation. I'm looking forward and looking ahead. Of course, we must always look ahead and see what we should expect. Inflation might continue to be on the high side, especially if we come up. We don't know what's going to happen with regards to minimum wage, like I said earlier. If that happens, what do you think would happen to inflation? And moving on in the year, if we do things right, what should be the output? And if we continue business as usual, what is likely to be the outlook?
Now, for all of us, there's a shock. There's a reality that you can't continue to do business the way you used to do it. Even for the individual, you realize if you have two cars, then I drive one, my wife drives one. Now we realize, look, we're tough. We can't put the two cars on the road.
Yeah, so we can't use one.
So there is that realization, the self-awareness of let's manage waste. What is really important to us. And as Nigerians are adjusting, I think it's also imperative for government, for the president and his cabinet to demonstrate that leadership at that level. People have mentioned the issue of escort cars, 5, 10, 15 escort cars. We can't be demonstrating opulence and preach to the people to be considerate. it creates trust issues. So while we grapple with all these issues, we grapple with inflation, mostly issue of cost pull inflation, and we grapple with the issue of stabilizing the naira. We grapple with the issue of dealing with productivity from the national context. Then progressively you realize, it's like somebody going to the gym. When you go to the gym, you go the first day, you have your workout, you feel the pain. You might not see the muscle growing, but progressively, progressively, few days later, you realize yourself that, look, something is changing. My physique is changing. Most likely the economy also. Once we all have that commitment and shared perspective of where we want to go, and government is transparent enough to communicate this shared value to Nigerians, and we can see the genuineness of government action, then it's easy for government to ramp up consensus. And once you ramp up consensus around your policy, it becomes easy for you to be successful. Same thing for minimum wage. Minister of Labor also, Minister of Labor and Employment. Same thing happens to the Minister of Labor. There are so many issues. The national minimum, the labor law is still pending. We also hope we address those issues. The industrial relations system probably need a lot of reforms. The strike is becoming a default now. Breaking of agreement by government is becoming a default. So those issues, we have to deal with it. We have to deal with the issue of social dialogue. We believe strongly as an association on social dialogue. If you have fights, even when you go to the courts, you are also embarking on a form of dialogue. It's just that now there's a judge to enforce the dialogue. So why not deal with those issues before you go to a third party, an arbiter? So the minister have to deal with the issue of social dialogue. We have to deal with strengthening institutions of labor administration. Those are the issues, and then you will have set the foundation for a robust conversation by the National Minimum Wage Committee. So those issues are there, but they are not beyond resolving. With good consultation, with better engagement, and with deepened collaboration with all stakeholders, including the private sector, those issues that we have in this country, they're not beyond resolving.
Time is fast spent already, but just 1 minute. Advocacy for business community. You've been the voice talking. What are you getting back from business people? I'm sure a lot of information coming in at the moment. And what will be your message to them to wrap up? Well,
our message first to the government. This morning, the Federal Inland Revenue came up with a public notice. While we appreciate the government for coming up with the Tax Reform Committee, it was saddening this morning that a component of the finance tax, that's the third fund, was increased from 2.5% to 3%. Notwithstanding our advocacy that, look, it has the potential to also compound businesses' challenges. The FRS said they are going ahead to implement that component. We want everybody to stay action. Federal Land Revenue, all tax. Let's stay action and allow the Tax Reform Committee to do their work. You can't continue to bury a business while you say we are going to get an ambulance that will take you to the hospital. It's contradictory. So let them deal with that. For organized businesses, I just want to commend the resilience and doggedness of organized businesses. It is difficult to do business in this country. So those that are surviving, that are doing business in this country, we need to give them the kudos that they actually deserve, because sustainable enterprises basically is the foundation that you anchor national development. If you're talking about GDP growth, is the anchor where you anchor employee welfare, because if there's no business, there won't be employees. Most regulatory agencies that were making contributions to NSITF, PENCOM, ITF, if there is no employer, there won't be any contribution. And even in Lagos State, if there is no business in Lagos State, it will be very difficult for the business to survive. So for organized businesses, kudos. I think we'll keep fighting. And for regulators, we want to appeal. Regulators, agencies of Lagos State government, agencies of the federal government, we want to appeal. We need businesses to survive for this economy to survive.
I must thank you so much. Interesting conversation as usual. I've been speaking to Mr. Wale Akinterinwa. He is the DG for the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you very much.
It's time to talk market, and my colleague is in the studio for us to do a review. Market editor Efyong Ekop. Ekop, it's that same flip-flop like we used to say. The market goes up, 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 and comes down. How does this come to you? And take us through the activities for the week.
Market really look backward this week. We had 3 trading days that were straight negative, considering the fact that investors were staying on sales windows, taking money out of their investment. I understand that they were under pressure to take money for spending on other things that really bother us. The level of inflation and the exchange rate problem. So these 2 things are in the baskets, and they are negative for investors. And so they look at the way to navigate through this way to be able to stay afloat on their investments level. We did not have so much of big volumes that we used to trade. And so the issue is that investors had to relax, look at the economy, begin to take a decision, and again, consider the economic data that we have around. So what we are going to do is to look forward to the new administrators that are being, what do I say, ministers?
Yes, yes. They're administrators. Yes. They are correct.
They are ministers.
Very correct.
So all eyes on them. We have great hope, high hopes on them.
I must tell you. I must tell you.
Yes.
A lot of expectations.
So much. In fact, the man that just left talked about the problems.
I know.
Manufacturing.
Yeah.
I care about manufacturers.
Yeah.
And
that's the only way we can grow this
seriously.
economy.
And when you talk about Nigeria getting forex, how will we get? Except we are able to sell anything beyond our borders to get foreign exchange. Forget the oil and gas thing that we are doing. That's not enough. Tolu, we have a very good arable land around us.
Yeah.
So why is it that we are not having agro-allied industries that we can package smaller things like tomato, pepper, things?
Sad, my brother.
We should be able to harness all these fruits and vegetables. If we don't even sell to European or American market,
Even within ourselves.
why not the ECOWAS market?
Of Africa.
We dominate ECOWAS market. We will still be getting foreign currency.
Yeah.
And that will help us.
Yeah.
So until we do that, I don't know, because there is serious.
Let's look ahead. Next week we are getting into September by Friday. Exactly. So it's just a few days to trade for the month.
That means we would have covered 3 quarters.
I tell you.
Yeah.
I tell you.
And looking from January till now, I do not think that any meaningful thing has really happened around individuals. You understand? The economy, like I said, we are waiting for those to administer. So if we have spent 3 quarters, and you know that by the time we get to the end of October, November, December, normally we do not have anything happening. The year would have closed. So it is that we need so much to happen. Maybe groundwork should still be laid throughout this year because we have very few months to end the year. Assuming we are able to fix the groundwork, then maybe in the first quarter of next year, we see things blossoming because we have lost a lot of ground this particular year. We started the year in January, from a very hard level, scarcity of the
Naira notes.
After that, we went into elections, and the election mood and processes have still remained till now. So the larger economy is suffering. Do you understand? Compounding, with the fuel thing that we're having. Then the crisis of foreign exchange. So until we resolve these 2, investments, investors are really, they're taking the backseat somehow. This week, the market lost about 1% this particular week in terms of, sales because of the pressure. And I think First Bank, Access, and FCMB, they were the banks that I could remember were always showing themselves up at the exchange throughout the week. Others took the back seats, and that's not good enough. We need to see, there are so many good companies in so many of the sectors. We don't need to clip how investors approach them so that they show themselves up.
I must thank you so much for your brilliant contributions as usual, Effiong Gekop. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
New data from Germany's statistics office shows that the country's economy stagnated in the second quarter compared to the previous quarter, following a winter recession, showing a zero growth rate for the 3 months to July, while year-on-year gross domestic product contracted 0.2% in the second quarter. On a quarterly basis, economic activities dropped by 0.4% in the fourth quarter of 2022 and 0.1% in the first quarter of 2023. Household consumptions recorded zero growth in the second quarter from the first quarter, and government spending rose 0.1%. Capital investment also increased modestly, while export fell 1.1%. However, Bundesbank expects economic output to remain largely unchanged again in the third quarter. The U.S. Department of Justice says it is suing Elon Musk's SpaceX, alleging the rocket firm discriminates against refugees and asylum seekers in the hiring process. The DOJ said SpaceX falsely claimed that it was not allowed to hire non-U.S. citizens. The investigation into SpaceX by the department was prompted by allegations of discrimination from a foreign worker. The department alleged that SpaceX routinely discourages asylees and refugees from applying and refused to hire or consider them because of their citizenship status from September 2018 to May 2022. In a post on X, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, Elon Musk said the lawsuit was yet another case of weaponization of Justice Department for political purposes. And wrapping up the show, global payment giant MasterCard will end its cryptocurrency card partnership with Binance Crypto Exchange next month. This will put an end to 4 crypto card programs in Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, starting from September 22nd of this year. The collaboration will come to an end 1 year after the launch of a prepaid card for residents of Argentina, and in early 2023 expanded the partnership with another prepaid crypto card in Latin America. Recall that Binance and its chief executive officer, Mr. Champeng Zhou, were sued by the United States Securities and Exchange Commission for allegedly violating local security laws and not properly registering with their derivatives regulator. However, the decision to end the program will not impact any MasterCard's other crypto cards program.